Hi there, thank you very much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. Following on both from Gavin and Graham, there is an element of vanadium I'll be discussing within my talk, but also we have a substantial gold asset which I'll expand on much further. Usual disclaimers, which again take time to read at your leisure. So this is a quick snapshot of Viking Mines as a company. We're a junior explorer, 1 billion shares on issue, around a 1 cent share price, giving us a market cap about 10 mil. Importantly, we finished the last quarter with close to $3 million in the bank, giving us an EV of 7 million. Just to reflect on AVL that I just previously talked, their market cap's upward of 130, 140 million, and they've got a very advanced vanadium project. I'll demonstrate to you we have a project that certainly has the potential to deliver a similar kind of output. Interestingly, our share price has tracked reasonably well over the year, which within the junior sector is a good outcome compared to some of our peers. And the two projects are shown on the map in the bottom corner there, Canegrass Battery Minerals Project and then the First Hit Gold Project. I'm not going to dwell extensively on the batteries and vanadium outlook, that's been covered in the previous two talks, but the important thing for me is that the forecast production of and the growth of the battery sector is seeing potentially up to 2.5 times the current global vanadium supply. So that bodes well for both ourselves, QEM, and Australian Vanadium, who talked previously. And Australia is really well placed for delivering into that battery sector, vanadium pentoxide and electrolyte. Our vanadium projects, you will have seen in the previous talk, a map similar to this. Australian Vanadium is about 160 k's to the north of us. We're near the town of Mount Magnet. 100% owned project. We recently completed acquisition. We were farming into this project, but we secured the remaining 51%. There's extensive infrastructure within 20 kilometres. In fact, Australia's only operating vanadium mine, Windermere, is located 15 kilometres to the east of us, is on care and maintenance. But with that comes power, gas pipelines, roads, etc. So we're very well placed. And I hope in the future AVL will produce their processing facility, which could generate a further opportunity to deliver concentrates from this site. We have a very large global resource of over 150 million tonnes, but within that we did a pit-constrained exercise last year, earlier this year, which saw over 60 million tonnes. And with context, that would generate about a 40-year mine life. The advantage and the value of this project hasn't been really fully reflected in our EV, which is currently standing about 7.7 million. One of the key things with these types of projects is the metallurgy. I'm a geologist by background. Geologically, it stacks up very robust. The drilling has been very straightforward. We've been focusing on the metallurgy predominantly over the last 12 months. I'm pleased to say we've delivered high quality concentrates in excess of 1.4%, with very low mass pull, 53%. That means for every tonne of ore feed, we get half a tonne of concentrate. And we've run that through the typical standard flow sheet. We've roasted the material, we've liberated the vanadium through the addition of salts, and we've leached that out and produced a vanadium pentoxide flake. We're now going through later stage metallurgical test work activity, which we'll see is producing a high purity flake. We're targeting 99% purity and an electrolyte, so that test work's ongoing. I now want to pivot and talk a bit about our First Hit Gold project. So the vanadium asset is not really fully reflected, as I mentioned, in the value of the company. I also want to demonstrate to you another asset which hasn't really seen value in the current share price. The company acquired this asset, First Hit Gold project, around in 2021 when I joined, and at the time it was a very small land holding, about 7 square kilometres, centred around the First Hit Gold mine, which produced around 30,000 ounces at nearly 8 grams a tonne. We've since then acquired much more tenure. Up in the image there, the blue ground is the ground we've acquired, now extending over nearly 480 to 500 square kilometres. And we adjoin Orabanda Mining, who's a 1.5 billion market cap gold producer that operates in the region. Their mill is just 40 kilometres south of us, and their Riverina mine is just 8 kilometres and adjacent to our tenements. And we're targeting narrow vein, high-grade gold deposits on the Zulika Shear. Here's just an aerial view overlooking the historic First Hit mine with the box cut on the right, and you can see the Riverina mine in the distance. So I've put this up just to illustrate the infrastructure that we have both in place and proximity. And the road running through there is a gazetted road. It's a dirt road, well maintained, and provides access directly to our tenure. The historical high-grade mine, shown on the long section here, was mined to about 220 metres vertically. There's some exceptionally high standout grades shown here. Grades up to over 1,000 grams a tonne were selected or sampled within the face samples as the mine was worked. The two yellow areas show the areas that were stoped and mined out, with ground left in between. At the time, the gold price was around $325 an ounce, US, that is. So now exceeding over $2,500 an ounce US. There's a lot of opportunity for unmined material to potentially be economic. With that in mind, we've undertaken a resource assessment study, which is underway, and we hope to get news flow on that in the coming weeks or months. Here's a photograph showing the typical core that comes out. So you can see a 40 centimeter piece of quartz vein there, assaying over 120 grams a ton. The darker rock to the left-hand side, also assaying high grade, is the margins of the shear zone, which also produces high-grade specky gold. And you can see within the photographs there's a lot of visible gold. So the target that we're looking for here is sort of that 1 to 2 meter wide but very high-grade quartz veins that are very typical of the Zuleika shear in the area within which we're exploring. So I'd like to move forward and explain what the priority targets are. Whilst we've got the first hit mine, which is shown at the top in that image, you've got the Riverina mine to the south. That's been operated, as I mentioned, by Orobanda Mining. They've got around 100,000 ounces of reserve left there. But the Riverina mine has been in operation for a very long time and is, I believe, total resource and reserve and that's been extracted is close to 800,000 ounces. So there's big deposits within this area that can be found. And you trace the Zuleika shear further to the south, you get the Kundana deposits near Kalgoorlie, which is an 8 million ounce camp. We've secured a 25 kilometer strike length of the Zuleika shear. So that's shown on the right-hand side of the image. You've got the yellow dashed line, which represents the shear that joins the granites further to the east. And the coloured dots over the rest of the image is the government-supplied drill hole database, which essentially is all drilling that's been completed throughout the vicinity. And you'll notice that there are very few lines that actually extend across the tenure of the 25K strike length of the Zuleika shear, which I'm demonstrating. The drilling that has occurred through that area is just RAB or air core drilling, so it's not effective, it's not tested bedrock at any depth. So we envisage that there's a number of key targets. If you look at the white zones that are shown on this image, you'll see that they start off as single individual bands, and then through the areas highlighted in the red circles, there's multiple layers that are stacked up against one another. This represents structural repeats. Those structures is where thrusts have occurred within the geological setting, and that means that there's pathways for gold mineralization. We're undertaking a targeting review through that. We've got some geochemical data, which we'll be looking to release to market in the near future, but a combination of the geochemical data, the structural setting generates very compelling targets. So we'll be looking to undertake a drilling program in the not too distant future on this. We also have a number of remaining drill targets that are listed here: Yana's Reward, First Hit North and First Hit South. They're the results from drilling which we undertook on this project a couple of years ago. They remain in and around near First Hit. So we have a number of high-grade hits which easily could, on discovery and getting the tiger by the tail, could grow and transpire into a large, significant deposit within 40 kilometers of a mill and a company that is looking for resources and reserves to mine. So if I wind this up into the investment case, we've got the battery minerals project, which I did go over rather quickly, but we have a very substantial vanadium project that is in a very good setting. It's close to port, and for that reason adds a lot of potential value for the company. There's multi-billion dollars value of commodity within the ground here. So anyone who invests in Viking Mines gets leverage to the vanadium price and vanadium projects as outlined in the previous presentations before me. But the First Hit Gold project, there's a resource assessment underway. There's regional target generation on a 25 kilometer strike of a very prolific gold belt in the Zuleika shear. We've got a drill program in the works which will test new targets. And we expect when that drill program is completed, we'll have results that will be able to follow up and from late at the end of the March quarter in 2025. So the investment case is you get diversified exposure to gold and critical minerals. We've got 100% owned projects, favourable project locations with infrastructure nearby, significant vanadium projects which gives leverage for any investor, and also significant opportunities with gold. And we're fully funded with the $3 million I mentioned in the bank to undertake our activity. Thank you very much for your time.